All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We're now at episode 28, and Let's Talk Recruiting. We are ending the month of June here, so hopefully we'll be rolling into some good times in the beginning of the summer here officially. Today's topic is how and when do you tell candidates that answer is no? Always a tough conversation to have, especially if you have somebody who was way down the pipeline and you've talked to quite a few times when you got to tell them that answer is no. And with us today, we have 4 of our members coming in from, I think, mostly the West Coast. John, we got you out of Denver, but that's close enough. We have Erica Thorson-Gary. Erica, am I saying your last name right? Did I get it?
Yep.
All right. She's out of the San Francisco Bay Area, where Julie Kemp is, also out of the Bay Area. And Kathleen Winery. Did I hit it? Okay, good. I swear I'm getting better at last names. And I mention that every time. Give myself my own kudos. She is out of Portland, and then John Kemp out of the Denver area, which is my second favorite place to live. All right. So again, topic, how and when do you tell your candidates? The answer is no. We're going to do, again, our roundtable discussion here for attendees. If you have any questions or comments, please add them in the chat area. And with that said, Erica, let's start with you and your key item that you wanted to bring up today.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks for that, Sean. You know, talent acquisition, it's such a sticky, what you had said, Sean, is that it's such a sticky conversation, but so necessary. And the timing of it, you need to be really, really cautious around it. What I hit home with my teams most importantly is the how. The when is very, very important. But to me, the how is what makes it personal and what really allows that person to feel respected throughout the process. So the how that we've implemented at LiveRamp is that if somebody comes to an onsite, which nobody's doing onsites these days, right? But the virtual onsites, we're still calling them onsites. If somebody comes to an onsite and they spend 3 or 4 hours with LiveRamp, they deserve a phone call from their recruiter. We pick up the phone, we call them and explain to them, we've decided on another candidate. Thank you for taking the time. We walk them through as much as we can. For people that make it further through the phone screening stages, those may just still be the generic emails, but immediately. In some cases, I ask the recruiter to decline them right on the spot. If you know that the candidate's not the right fit, tell them right then and there. It's just respecting their time. It's doing the right thing. And that's one of our core values, is do the right thing above all else. Really, really important. I want to also layer onto that, employee referrals are something that we find really valuable. If we're going to turn down an employee referral, even if they're not qualified for the position at all, could be somebody, we're looking for a CTO and it's a barista applying for a job, we're still going to pick up the phone and call that employee referral because somebody took the time to refer them into LiveRamp. So every single referral, qualified or not, gets a phone call to either get them started in the process or decline them from the process at any step. Personalization is what we're finding is really key to ensuring that people find LiveRamp as an employer of choice. The first step to becoming an employer of choice is becoming an interviewer of choice. So we want to make sure that people are really feeling involved throughout the entire process.
Hey, Erica, real quick on the employee referrals, are you also letting the employee who referred the person, are you having a conversation or any type of piece with them?
Good question. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we get super high volume. Right now, as an example, right, is that we are getting a ton of employee referrals. So we're not necessarily able to touch the referrer as well as the referee. We sometimes will Slack somebody just saying, hey, we got your referral. Thanks for that. We're not moving forward. The referrers also have the ability to go into our ATS and see where their candidate is in process. So they can do things that way. Oftentimes those referrers will also reach out to the hiring managers or to the recruiters to say, hey, where's my candidate? How are things sitting? Ideal world, we would absolutely reach out to the referrers just as much as the referees. Just time, unfortunately, doesn't always allow for that.
And you're phone calling all the employee referees? Wow.
Yes. My team, I hope none of them are on the line, they don't necessarily always agree with me, but to me, it's something that's super duper important. Candidate experience was the first platform that when I came into LiveRamp that we were going to tackle. And this is one piece of that. So we do call every single one of them. And sometimes it's not even getting them on the phone. It's leaving them a voicemail, right? So it's not always a 5-10 minute conversation. It could very well just be a voicemail that we're leaving for somebody, thanking them for applying and letting them know that this isn't the right fit, but we'll absolutely keep them in mind for future.
Yeah, I wonder if your recruiters are making phone calls after hours just on that list. I remember back in the day when hey, I just want to leave you a message. I don't want to talk to you for whatever reason. It'd be like after hours or really early or something like that.
Yeah, some of my recruiters have found a way, and I don't remember exactly how it is, but there is something that you can dial on your keypad if it's somebody's cell phone, that it'll go directly to voicemail. So they have been able to jerry rig the system a little bit. There is a way to do it.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm all with you on giving responses back. Like, whoa, that could be a lot of,
A
you know,
lot.
neutral. I won't say it's negative time spent,
Mm-hmm.
just neutral because it's not leading forward, but it is that good experience and stuff like that, that good branding. Uh, Interesting. Anybody else have any comments on that piece?
I would just say that I really don't like to leave a message
Mm-hmm.
rejecting someone. I feel like that's just a terrible message to have to pick up on your phone. So I really do try to leave a voicemail to say, hey, can we talk?
Mm-hmm.
And then let them know after the conversation, if at all possible.
Julie, do you gauge that level of service kind of on how far they went in the hiring process, or is it everybody?
No, it's not everybody, unfortunately, just volume. I don't think we would be able to do that. But anybody that gets to on-site, we absolutely do make a phone call.
Got it. John, Kathleen, anything to add to that?
No, I'll echo everything Eric has said. Viewpoint does the same exact thing. We don't always call a referee, but we will send them an email and let them know that they're not quite the right fit, but we'd be happy to engage with them in the future, or if they want a quick conversation, give them that option. And sure enough, they typically do. So at least you find out a little bit about them. But I think the high touch and being able to give that great candidate experience to someone is critical for employer branding. So it sounds great.
Yeah, kudos to your team, Erica, on doing that. I don't know if anybody remembers when LinkedIn had a product for employee referrals. And then, at least where I was at, it was so easy to refer somebody. There were just hundreds of people in that bucket. So they just were going untouched because there's just nothing anybody could do. So I think they kind of killed the program because people are asking to turn it off, or at least where I was, because it's like bad experience. I can't get to all those people, and a lot of them are not matches. So sort of the whole.
We are qualifying the referrals, is that they actually have to be referrals, right? Is that Susie Q has to know Joe Schmo. It can't just be, I put it out on LinkedIn and all these people responded, is that we qualify it that way, is that there actually has to be a snippet in there about how do you know this person? That's when because then we can actually give true feedback as to, okay, you worked with Joe Schmo before. Unfortunately, this isn't a fit. So we're not getting the super high volume on that. And I see a question in the chat about what's our average candidate volume. Really depends on position. But for our employee referrals, quite honestly, I don't want to say minimal, but I would say we probably get maybe 100 a month. So if you break that number down by the 10 recruiters on the team, it's not a lot of phone calls to be made. It's really not. If you break it down number by number, it's really next to nothing.
When you make a referral, do you have to assign that referee to a specific rec, or it's just kind of a general referral?
You do have to assign it to a specific rec. Otherwise, it would just be a prospect in the system. So they are assigning, when somebody goes in to refer a candidate, it does get assigned to a specific requisition.
Got it. Yeah, I love it because a lot of companies will just create that bucket. So I do love it when you got to put a little time into this employee to give us a heads up where you want them to go. Don't make me figure it all out. So I've seen a bunch of employee referral programs. I like it when they do that. I think to your point, Erica, that just loops them into your whole process. Yeah, I totally forgot about bringing up employee referrals as part of this, when to tell them no, because to your point, you're kind of behind the red velvet rope when somebody here brings you in specifically to that point. So that high touch I can see the need for it. All right, Julie, let's jump over to you.
Sure. I wanted to talk about the challenge of when you have hiring managers who are wanting you to delay telling candidates the outcome of their interviews. They maybe want to, see what else is out there. I think a lot of times it's kind of a FOMO thing where they're fearing they're missing out on somebody else because this other candidate is good, but maybe not the perfect candidate. And so it really can lead to that recruiting black hole that we all hate. And so it's about making sure that the hiring managers understand and really getting them to sit in the candidate's shoes and understand that, they wouldn't appreciate not hearing back, and we need to give them some sort of feedback. And so, really making sure you're managing the hiring managers, and letting them know that the candidate needs to be respected, and their time is really important. And so we need to, get back to them in a timely manner. I might be willing to delay, a week or so, but not a month. And in the meantime, I'm also wanting to call the candidate and give them a little bit of input as to where we are in the position, in the search, so that they know that we know they're there. They know we're still thinking about them, and we definitely are still interested.
So you're trying to avoid waiting till you get that accept offer, right? To let people know that they're kind of out of the running. Mm-hmm. For those managers that they're going to sit on it, right? They want to sandbag. They don't want to give a decision. And let's say they're not going to go with that person, right? And they're just holding on for the sake of it. Are you giving that candidate like sort of an updates, even though that final update will be, hey, you've been declined? What's kind of like your gut feeling on that?
I got to say that I think honesty is really the best policy whenever you're communicating with a candidate. You can say, look, there were a lot of really good things in your background and your skill set, but there are also some things that we have some concerns about. So we're kind of thinking through whether it would work for us if we were to bring you on. And so, I really do want to try and be as truthful, not like lead them down thinking they're going to get an offer when they may very well not. And I'm also at that point talking with the hiring manager and say, look, you really don't like this person. Let's move on if you don't think that they're the best match for you.
Did you ever have to tell somebody no and then go back to them and tell them, hey, our real person didn't accept the offer. Would you like the offer? And kind of go back, kind of eat crow a little bit?
Sure, of course. I would never go tell them that they were the second choice by any means. It is, things have changed. We've had a change of heart, and we'd really love to see you, based on some of the business challenges that we have, we think you're going to be a great match for what we need moving forward.
Yeah, all this reminds me of that psychologist piece of recruiting and being people's therapist in a way, right? Mm-hmm. Keep the motivation up and everything going. It's tough. Interesting. Yeah, I've been in operations for so long. I haven't worked at desk in a long time. So it's always like to hear kind of the war stories you get comes along with each rec, and those little anecdotal stories that come along, and having to declining somebody and then going back and saying, hey, we want to start this up again. I'm sure to your point, Julie, you just phrase it right, the honest piece of it.
Yeah. And honestly, we're in a kind of consumer facing business. So I want my candidates, even if they don't work at Mercari, I want them to still be a user of Mercari. And so that experience they have can help our company move forward. If they feel really positively about us, even though they didn't get the job, that means that, we're better placed in the marketplace.
And Steve Green from the audience is asking, have you found impact on timely consideration during the COVID lag?
I'm unclear.
With things sort of the hiring process kind of getting paused, kind of that delay with what's going on until people kind of figure it all out. Any impact there?
Yeah, we're currently paused on hiring. We were paused, then we unpaused, and then we repaused. And as a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with a candidate yesterday saying, I am so sorry, we're going to have to pause. Really enjoyed talking with you, really interested, would love to reconnect, but I also understand that you're actively looking. So, I'm going to call you when we're closer, and I want to stay in touch. But at this point, we can't move forward.
Got it. Anybody else want to add to Julie's topic? All right, Kathleen. Thank you, Julie. Kathleen, let's jump over to you.
Thank you. So I agree with Julie completely. The honesty is always the best policy. That way, if you talk to a candidate in the future, they're going to remember what you said, and you won't have to scramble and think what you might have said. It really is important to be honest with them, although to an extent, right? You can't say, well, your communication skills were so poor that we couldn't, move forward. What you would say instead would be, we found other candidates who are a little bit more closely aligned, so we're not going to move forward with you on this position, but please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn so that I can perhaps help, refer you to other companies or, answer questions in the future for you. So it's all about the candidate experience and being a really positive one, even if the answer is no. As far as when to tell them no, usually it's during your phone screen, right? Because you know that they're missing some key important skills. Once in a while, there are candidates that still try to push the fact that they're the best candidate for the job. And in those cases, I will usually give them a couple of days before I go back and tell them no. But I do set that expectation up front. And with Viewpoint, all of us always get back to the candidates. If there's somebody that I do put forward, I want to let them know rather that I'll be getting back in touch with them within a week, just to update them. It's really important that you stay in touch with those that are in play.
Kathleen, you mentioned about connecting on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
kind of working into the networking world. This is a question for you and kind of for everybody. When you tell a good candidate no, just because let's say somebody better beat them to the job, do you ever refer them to recruiters that you know at other companies that you think would be a good fit, where you give out names or do any actions? I'm real curious around that, because that's kind of to me, that's the ultimate in rejection. Here, I can't hire you here, but here's who I think you should really look at. I know, Erica over here, she'd love to have somebody like you if they have a position. Kathleen, do you do anything like that?
I've done that quite a bit, honestly. I always get the candidate's permission first before I do that. I'll ask them, would you mind if I forward your resume to recruiter at XYZ company, because I know they're looking at the same time. I also tell them of other jobs I've heard about. If I'm interviewing a candidate and they tell me they're also interviewing with Microsoft or, some other company locally, when I talk to other candidates that aren't a fit for our job, I'll ask them, have you looked at Microsoft? They're hiring for this job.
Everybody else, what are your thoughts on that?
Very
Erica,
similar,
yeah.
Is that we offer that as much as we can. And to your point is that we ask permission first, right? Or we just, here's somebody that I'd recommend you connect with on LinkedIn and have the candidate drive it so that they take some ownership of it also. Some of my recruiters also offer up their personal cell phone numbers, is that, hey, we don't have anything today, but would love to stay in touch with you. That goes even beyond a LinkedIn. I don't always encourage that, because you do still get the discouraged candidates that are getting the not so nice phone calls. But one of my recruiters does that to really show a good faith to that candidate, is that we truly believe in your candidacy. This just didn't work out this time.
Does Julie and John, do you guys do that? I'm kind of curious if everybody has do you have a go-to group of people that you do that with, that you have a relationship with other recruiters where, hey, if I'm going to send somebody to Julie knows that I've kind of vetted her. I'm not just passing along people. Do you have an existing network, or how does that work for you?
I've recruited in the Bay Area for quite a few years, more years than I like to say. So I do have a number of contacts at various companies that I will connect with if I see somebody that I think would be a great match. And sometimes I'll offer up, especially with a more junior candidate who is struggling to find that first job. I'll offer up my services to help them with interview prep or resume review or anything like that to help them along.
And same here, you lean into the network of people that and you've worked with for a career, however long that may be. And, every once in a while those work out, and those recruiters will show you good faith too, by doing the same for you in a scenario. If you tee them up with a candidate who's great. The other thing I like to do is, don't do that when it's disingenuous. You can sometimes have candidates who really aren't a good fit, and they're not a good fit for your friend's role or your former colleague's role. That's not the time, right, to introduce candidates. You only want to do it when it does actually seem like it might work out, and then what goes around comes around on that. So it it'll benefit you too.
Is it safe to say that you do not include direct competitors of your company?
I incidentally, yes, just because I don't know a lot of recruiters at our competitors, but I would actually not hesitate to to refer somebody to a competitor if I thought that it was a great fit and I knew the folks. You know, I think, well, in our case, we're Gusto. We build payroll software, and there's a lot of payroll software companies. There's room for tons of us in the market, so it's not like it's a zero sum game here. We can all be big, great companies, and so I wouldn't hesitate. But I can imagine there are situations where you might not want to do that as well, as I'm sure we all can.
There's that one story of the hiring manager who says, "Hey, bring that candidate back in." "Oh, I sent him over to the XYZ company." "Our competitor? What'd you do that for?" Yeah.
Yeah, this candidate I talked to yesterday, he was also talking to another competitor, and I was like, "Oh, knife to my heart."
Interesting. Excellent. Does anything else to anybody to add to that piece of it, Kathleen?
I just think that being in touch with them often and setting that expectation up front on how often they're going to hear from you, or what the interview process is going to be, how long it will take. Those are all questions people have. And so I always tell them, I'll contact you within a week. If I haven't, please reach out to me. Sometimes you have to put it onto them if you have a lot of volume going on and you don't know that you can always get to them within a week. But definitely at the end of the week, I'm looking to contact every candidate that's still in process.
So let me challenge your level of candidate experience or engagement here and experience. And now that we're all kind of living in the world of Zoom videos, if you were doing video interviews with candidates, are you going to do a rejection over video, or would you just keep that on the phone? Interesting.
I'll start. So far, all of my screens have been through the phone rather than video. I suppose I would actually, if it was just a conversation, like an initial conversation, and you were on video, yeah, it's worth it. I mean, honesty is the best policy again. Anybody else? Have you done that?
Don't mean to put anybody on the spot, just curious.
I haven't done that, but I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Agreed. I wouldn't have a problem with it. We don't, though, simply because we use BlueJeans and it requires you'd have to schedule the time. Where typically if we're turning somebody down, it's just we want to get the person on the phone as soon as possible rather than having to find time on calendars that match up. That could delay the process even more. And that just doesn't always lend to a good candidate experience.
There's a piece, I don't want to step, John, on your piece, but
don't feel bad about that.
So does anybody ever put any they say, hey, never put things in writing that may come back to bite you in the butt, right? So I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole of the video thing. If I'm doing my feedback back to candidates on video, there's the chance that they can be recording it on their end. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the laws or rules are on that, but let's just say I can hit screen record and record what these people are telling me now. I'm just trying to little foresight here. Do you ever get into detail, even if it's on the phone? Too much detail in regards to reasons why not? Say it's the same.
Yeah,
okay.
I would say no. I'll just jump in and say, yeah, no. You want to protect yourself and the company from the legal liability of having told a candidate something that they either disagree with or is just plain wrong, which that can happen too, right? We're all humans, we make mistakes. And so you want to avoid feedback in general, I think, actually, wholesale. And a lot of recruiters on my team struggle to do that a little bit. They think, oh, I really like this person. I want to help them. I want to tell them what went so poorly. And the thing that I tell them is, hey, we mostly interview software engineers on my team. And so number one, I'm not a software engineer. So I'm not qualified to assess you in that capacity. And number two, for the interview where this feedback came up, I wasn't in the room. So I'm not going to give somebody, secondhand, third-hand feedback from, some conversation where I wasn't there and I don't know the content. That just seems super dangerous. So I actually will tell candidates that directly. It'd be a disservice to you, Mrs. Candidate, for me to tell you that, some feedback when I wasn't there, and I know I'm not the right person to deliver the feedback. So I can't tell you anything more than it's not the fit. I'm so sorry. That kind of thing.
Excellent point. Hey, John, let's roll into your final comments, your topic.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to try and roll it all up into all the controversial things. There's so many controversial things, right? And I think on this, you always have this push and pull, this tug of war between candidate experience that you want to be great and also the time. You only have so many hours in a day. And so I was actually going to challenge the notion that you call everybody who comes on site. I don't think that's always the right thing to do. And there are a lot of people who disagree with me on this, and that's okay. We can disagree. But sometimes I actually think it's okay to write a really thoughtful, lovely email and send it off and offer up a call if if the candidate really wants one. So, there are certain ways you certainly don't want to email a candidate and reject them, but I think it's actually okay as long as you're thoughtful.
I'm starting to see in this sort of the software developers and engineers, the process kind of gets from recruiting duties. I brought this up in an earlier webinar that we did, and it was the first time everybody heard of it. First time for me was the closing duties was separated from the sourcer, the recruiter, and the closer. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking, well, if you have all these roles in the hiring process, who's the one that has to have the conversation is to know? And kind of, John, to your point, well, I was only involved in this little point. I can't address anything else besides telling you we're moving on. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Somebody's asking the comments about the type of feedback that you give to employees versus external candidates. I got to assume, kind of going with Erica's philosophy, that these employees are getting much more engagement or much more feedback back. Maybe that's an HR role too in that sense. But what are your thoughts around the employee feedback versus external candidates?
For me, that does almost seem like an HR thing. An employee who applies into as part of an internal mobility, kind of program or into a new role, that person should be getting feedback all the time from their manager and their peers and people who work with them in general about how they can improve and grow their career and become better at all kinds of skills. And so there's really not the same legal danger of, telling an employee, hey, this isn't the right fit for these reasons, and we'd love to help you and sort of work with you so you can get into that role eventually if that's what you want to do. I don't think there's as much legal sort of danger in that at all. In fact, I think giving feedback to employees is awesome.
I agree 1,000,000% with John, is that it's our duty, and maybe not TA's duty, but it's the company's responsibility to provide that feedback so that that person can continue to grow and develop into what they want their career to be. At LiveRamp, we actually have the hiring manager provide that feedback because they're the ones that internal wants to be part of that team or have that role. So we ask the hiring manager to give the feedback because they can give very specific. You need this degree, you need this type of experience. This is what you can do currently in your current role as a side of desk project, maybe to help you develop into this. So the next time the position comes open, you may be better qualified.
Agreed. That's the same as we do. We ask the hiring managers to connect directly with the internal candidate.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever ask?
I'm sorry. It's part of our company culture as well, because it's a coaching opportunity for the hiring managers, because these are people that are growing within the company. They want to be involved. They, as Erica mentioned, they want to join that team. And so this helps to give the managers a coaching experience.
I have a question, but I think I already know the answer to it. When it comes to external candidates, are the hiring manager ever involved in the rejections?
I'll go ahead and answer that too. We do ask them to do it, but I always offer to do it myself because they're not used to it. All of us here have had 20 plus years experience saying no, and it's just a lot easier for us to do it in a positive way. And sometimes hiring managers don't know what they can say. They don't understand. And so we ask them if they want to do it. Most of the time they don't.
I knew the guy who ran recruiting for Lucasfilm, and I talked to him like a day after he just got out of a meeting with George, because it was a private company. And he says there's a difference between working for a publicly traded company and a private, and it really comes to a head when somebody gets your team in trouble. So the candidate was suing the company, so he had to go have a talk with George. It's like, with George Lucas. It's like, that was not a fun day for him. But I handed to him to manage that. To your point, Kathleen, you be in control of what gets said when you can, but hiring managers are a big part of the process. And to that point, there was an earlier question in the audience in regards to pre-on-site rejections, right? I can think we're all talking about, hey, once they come on site, they get the high velvet rope treatment. When it comes to people that get rejected in the early stages, I assume those are going to be sort of automated or email. Nobody's got the time for that. How about, are we when you get rejected early in the process, let's say at the resume screen, are you getting rejected there and then and getting that notice? Or what's your company's policy? Are you waiting until the rec gets closed before these people kind of get rejected? Or what are your thoughts on pre-onsite rejections?
It's funny. We actually had somebody comment that we rejected them too fast because we rejected within 8 hours or something of them applying for the job. And so we delay the rejection by a day. So just 24 hours after we've reviewed the candidate, the rejection email will go out. And, when it's at application review, we typically have a pretty standard template that we send out, thanking them for applying, and we'll consider them, et cetera. If they get a little bit further, I do try to customize it a little bit more, though.
I've had recruiters that will sit on rejecting people because they don't want that automatic email to go out, so then they don't have to deal with the questions that come back. Hey, that rec is still open. I'm great for this. Why are you not interviewing me? Which is a fair position. Mm-hmm. I will say, as the apply with LinkedIn, as that gets easier and easier and more integrated with systems, and people aren't really treating their LinkedIn profile in detail as a resume, when they hit that apply with LinkedIn, I think that rejection rate will go up because there's just not a lot of content in a resume. Kind of sort of a side topic from an operations thing to see what's the rejection rate when people apply with LinkedIn versus applying with their resume, because the recruiter doesn't have a lot to go on if I'm just looking at their LinkedIn profile, to be blunt, if they're looking for skill sets and keywords and things like that. All right, we're coming up to just a couple minutes over. Does anybody have any final comments to this? This truly is a situation where recruiters have to deal with it on a day-to-day. I think everybody kind of has the same thoughts around it. I think time constraints are the biggest roadblock to doing it the perfect way. But any final comments on the topic? Eric, I'll start with you.
No, I think we need to always keep candidate in mind. And I know that there's a time crunch for recruiters, but we need to make sure that there are people on the other side that are getting turned down. And especially in the way that the economy is today, it's hard. And they do fall into that black hole, is that if they get that one phone call that's declining them, it puts that piece of humanity behind it. So that's the hardest part, is remembering that there is a person behind that resume that's looking for a job, probably for a pretty good reason.
Julie, any final comments?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's all about respect. They give us their time. They spend a significant amount of time prepping for an interview, as well as giving us time during an interview. And it's stressful. So the more respect you can give them by actually making a call, the better you will be in terms of developing a great candidate experience.
Gotcha. And John, I'll get you. I know you got to jump here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the big theme for me on this topic is there are so many right ways to do it. And there are also so many wrong ways to do it. And over a long time, you simply you end up learning. You just end up learning what works and what doesn't. And, you use your instincts and be empathetic. Don't feel like you have to follow a script or a formula. Every single person, to Erica's point, is a human, and they're unique and they're individuals, and you got to respect them. So that's really it for me. Those are my thoughts.
Excellent. Kathleen?
Keep a candidate pipeline. And for those people that do get rejected, even though they made it fairly far along in the process, I just let them know that I'll reach out to them in the future, if I have anything similar. And I truly do. I've done that plenty of times and been able to make placements by doing that.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the word of the day is empathy, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in these times. Even though people may be more understanding, it still kind of hurts. All right. Well, hey, thank you, everybody, for participating. I thought that was a great conversation. With that said, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.